So today is the 13th of Iyar. I'm going to start off with Hayom Yom, which goes as follows. At Mincha, Tachanun is said. We do say Tachanun. Good morning, Susan. We do say Tachanun in the afternoon services today. Now, why would you not want to say Tachanun? Tachanun is the supplication prayer, prayers of confession, so to speak. You don't say them on a Yantif, on a Jewish holiday. So this afternoon, we do say Tachanun. Why would I have thought not to say? Why would I have had a Havamina? Havamina means even a forethought that maybe I should not say some prayers of supplication this afternoon, because tonight and tomorrow is actually a Yantiv. Did you know this? Tonight and tomorrow is actually one of the most famous, unknown Jewish holidays. Probably the least known of the Jewish holidays. It's called Second Pesach. I know you might be getting indigestion already, learning that there's more than one Pesach, but the Second Pesach is a biblical event that was relevant to the Jewish people that complained to Moses. They said we weren't able to offer the Paschal offering, the Pesach sacrifice, because we were impure for whatever reason, or we were far away from the temple at the time. What do we do? So Moses inquires by God, and God answers those that missed the first time. They have a second chance, and that is 30 days after the first Pesach. We have the second Pesach. It only applies to people that missed out on the first Pesach. It's their opportunity to bring their Paschal sacrifice that they missed the first time around. It's also celebrated by us today by eating some shmura matzah on Pesach, on the second Pesach. It's on the 14th of the month of Iyar. And more spiritually, it is a very inspiring time when the Torah validates second chances. Pesach Sheni, Marty, that's right. Pesach Sheni. When the Torah validates second chances, the Torah recognizes that we're human, that we are not perfect, and that we will fall. It's not a question of if you will fall. It's a question of when you will fall and what are you going to do about it. That's the message of Pesach Sheni. You can always fix a situation. You can always fix a broken situation or a missed opportunity. It is never, ever too late. So that's what this Yantiv is all about. It's a very inspiring message. So the Hayom Yom goes as follows. The Alter Rebbe said, during those years, that he would say short discourses, quotes, this is the entire discourse. He was quoting from Ethics of the Fathers. No, what is above you? Da, malamayla mimach. You should know what is above you. Now, in a literal meaning, that means just be conscious that there is something higher than you, and that's why we wear a yarmulke. Yarmulke is a reminder, Yerei Malka in Aramaic, which means be conscious, be in awe. Be in fear or in awe, more like awe, of that which is above you. So you should be conscious of that which is higher than you. So the way the Alter Rebbe, the founder of Chabad, explained it was so beautiful. Remember, the Torah has no punctuation. Da malamayla mimach. Know that what is above you. Here's how he explained it. He said, Da malamayla. Know that which is above Mimach is all because of you. Know that everything above in the supernal sfirot and the partzufim, which means the divine emanations and configurations, all derives from you. It all depends on man's service. What that means is that the human being is the fulcrum of the universe, is the hinge of all of existence. That means that we aren't just happenstance, that we are random creatures amongst many, 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 many other creatures. We are the rudder of the entire existence. How you or I initiate our morning today is the cause of whatever is going up in heaven. And indeed, you'll find this theme throughout the Torah. In another place, it says, Hashem tzilcha, God is your shadow. Just like a shadow follows you around perfectly, so too God follows you around perfectly. Does exactly how you initiate. You put up your hand, the shadow moves its hand. You put your other hand, the shadow moves its hand. So too, if you're kind, God is kind to you. If you're nasty, God is nasty to you. If you're critical of someone else, then God is critical of you. And that's the concept over here. Know what is above you. So on a literal level, whatever, be conscious that there is a God. Okay, but the Chabad approach is obviously there's a God. You've got to be a fool to think that there is no God. You've got to be just, have some screws loose to think that everything just happens on autopilot. It's like a passenger in an airplane who says, oh, there is no pilot because I've never seen the pilot, therefore there is no pilot. It's ridiculous, But the Alter Rebbe interprets it to mean, know that which is above, whatever goes on in heaven, is because of you. You are the apple of God's eye. He cares about you so very much that it's your initiation that reverberates throughout the entire universe. We used to say the butterfly effect was a butterfly flapping her wings in China can cause a tsunami in the United States. And a person sneezing in New Jersey can cause a pandemic in China. But today we realize how incredibly true that is. And we know it's called the butterfly effect. So if that's true within this planet, then how much more so is it true in a spiritual plane, that whatever energy we put out to the universe is what actually happens out there in the universe. So it all depends on that service. That's today's Yom Yom. Back to the Talmud, friends. If you have this book, we're learning the Ein Yaakov. Ein Yaakov, Einyaakov. It's published by Art Scroll Mesorah Publications. Highly recommending you to buy this book online. It's about $30, maybe $35, I don't know. But you can buy it online. And it's a very good book to have. It's a collection of the stories of the Talmud. Today we're going back to the Talmud that we left a few weeks ago. And we're learning about the very seemingly boring piece of Talmud. A very boring piece of Talmud, which is about to come to life. It talks about, we're on page 85. 85. The Talmud gets into some random, seemingly useless piece of information, which says that anyone, we read this, I'm just going to refresh your memory. Rabbi Chelbo said, in the name of Rav Huna, anyone who gets benefit from the wedding feast of a groom, but does not make him glad, violates the 5 sounds mentioned in Jeremiah in the context of a wedding. The sound of joy, the sound of gladness, the sound of the groom, the sound of the bride, and the sound of those saying, praise God. So since there's 5 sounds associated with the bride and the groom, therefore one who doesn't gladden the bride and the groom, if you don't dance at the wedding but you eat the meal, then you're going to be violating the 5 sounds. And what is his reward? The Talmud says, Rabbi Shua ben Levi said, if you do gladden the bride and the groom, then you'll merit to get the 5 sounds which are associated with Torah. Because about the Torah concerning the Shavuos holiday, which is around the corner at the end of May, it says 5 sounds. On the 3rd day, when it was morning, there were sounds and lightning and a heavy cloud in the mountain, and the sound of the shofar grew. And God would respond to him with a sound. Basically, 5 times it says the word sound about the Torah. Therefore, you'll merit to get the 5 sounds of Torah. And we are just left scratching our heads and saying, why on earth, why in heaven's name do we need to know this utterly irrelevant and useless piece of information? Well, for thousands of years, we didn't have a clue what this Talmud was talking about until a fellow by the name of Gary Chapman showed up. Gary Chapman is a non-Jewish person, to the best of my knowledge, who is a marriage counselor. And he came out with a fascinating book called The 5 Love Languages. And in The 5 Love Languages, what he does is that he explains that marriage, a healthy relationship, has 5 sounds. There are 5 languages. And every marriage, every person has a primary language and a secondary language. So imagine you were married to a Chinese person, and the Chinese spouse that you were married to only spoke Chinese and you only spoke English. You'd probably have some communication problems, right? But imagine that you're married right now to the person that you're married to, and you speak a love language that that person does not. They speak a love language that you do not. You're going to have marriage problems. Let me explain to you what these 5 love languages are. Acts of service, gifts, quality time, verbal affirmation, I always forget it. I'll write it down. I'll get it. Hold on, folks. So I go like this: acts of service, quality time, verbal affirmation, gifts, oh shoot, what is, and I said verbal affirmation, acts of service, quality time, well, there you go, Marty. You're the best. Physical touch. I knew there was another T in there, right? Marty, you're the best. Words of affirmation, acts of service, receiving gifts, quality time, and physical touch. Have you heard of these before, Marty? The 5 love languages? I'm going to post them onto my Facebook as well. I'm going to copy what you wrote there, Marty. I'm going to put them onto Facebook as well. So the people on Facebook will see, whoa, a lot going on Facebook. Ed Hockman and Adrian Henigman. Good morning. And Sarah Kramer. Good morning. Shmaya Futafas. And again, we've got Rob Berger. Yes, Terry Zweig is touch. Thank you. Thank you, Terry, for explaining that. So the 5 love languages are those things. Again, just to summarize, they are words of affirmation, acts of service, receiving gifts, quality time, and physical touch. Let me explain what they are. So words of affirmation is, some people have a love language which is verbal. They need you to say to them words of praise. You're wonderful. I love you. You're special. That was amazing. That was so thoughtful. They need the verbal communication. If you don't give them the verbal communication, they don't feel loved. Their love tank is empty until you compliment them verbally. Not thinking compliments, not meditating compliments, not planning on saying compliments, but saying compliments. Actually, compliments every single day. Morning, afternoon, and evening. That means text messages, that means emails, that means phone calls, just talking, verbal. And without that, the person's love tank is empty. The next one would be acts of service. Acts of service would be, for example, taking out the garbage for her. You know, this is where that whole conversation about lowering the toilet seat situation or picking it up or whatever that is. This is about cooking his favorite dinner or doing things that she likes. That would be like, for example, just acts of service, whatever you know the other person wants. When you do them, when you let her sleep a little longer, or you do something thoughtful, that's that person's love tank. Another one is receiving gifts. Some people, they just need gifts to feel loved. Whether it's flowers, whether it's expensive gifts or sentimental gifts or thoughtful gifts. Without gifts, they just don't feel loved. Other people, this doesn't really talk to them. You'll notice there's a lot of people, gifts, it doesn't really make it or break it. I mean, it's always nice, but it just doesn't make it or break it. I need you to speak to me, right? And if I don't speak to me, then what is the gift worth? Other people's the other way around. Another one, interesting one, is quality time. I remember spending my wife and I were having a conversation a long time ago, and we were talking. You know, she was saying something about we're not spending enough time together. I said we just drove to Miami together. We were like an hour each way in the car, and she said, "Yeah, but you were on the phone the whole time." So she's right, because that's not quality time. That's time, but that's not quality time. You were sitting next to each other in the car, but you weren't really spending quality time. For such a person, gifts might not be as important as quality time. And of course, the final one is physical touch, which for many, many people is very, very expressive of love and fills up their love tank. So those are the 5 love languages. You can read about them. They're the 5 love languages of marriage, of relationships. Gary Chapman is the author. Fascinating. He actually collected this from thousands and thousands of marriage counseling couples that he worked through, and you realize that they weren't even talking to each other. You know, the John Gray approach, which is men are from Mars and women are from Venus. It's a new approach to that approach, which is saying that you're just simply not connecting with each other. You know, you're talking Chinese, she's speaking Spanish, and obviously you guys aren't connecting. You know, she's screaming for love. He's saying, I'm giving you as much love as I possibly can, but what the kind of love that she needs is maybe touch or maybe verbal affirmation or maybe acts of service. And all he's busy giving is the kind of love that he wishes he would be getting, which is, let's say, acts of service. So he's giving her acts of service. She needs gifts, or he's giving her gifts. She needs time. And that's why she doesn't feel loved. He feels frustrated. The marriage falls apart. That's a very, very good read. Not a very long read, but it's a good read. When we see the 5 love languages, and then you come back to this Talmud, you're like, whoa, 1 second. Could it be that the Talmud is telling us in code form thousands of years ago that there are 5 languages, 5 sounds associated with relationships, and that one who gladdens the groom and the bride will merit to get 5 love languages? Fascinating concept to think about. But where things get really fascinating is where the Talmud continues, and it says that if you do gladden the bride and the groom, you'll receive the 5 languages of Torah. 5 languages of Torah. And now you start to think, 1 second, are there 5 languages of Torah as well? And you realize that much of our Judaism, which is enigmatic and idiosyncratic, is actually expressive of the 5 love languages, because we are also in a relationship with God. And a lot of the approach that I teach is that our relationship with God shouldn't be one of fear or abuse, God forbid. It is one of romance. Do you have a romantic relationship with God or not, is an interesting question. And it all falls into focus when you look at the 5 love languages applied not to your spouse, but to your lover in heaven, to God. Think about it this way. So we have 5 love languages with God. Words of affirmation. What is words of affirmation? How often do we daven? Do we pray that we are literally reciting words of affirmation morning, afternoon, and evening? Wow. When you realize that all of that davening isn't just endless recitals, but actual love poetry that you're reading to your lover in heaven. You are verbally expressing your love, verbal affirmation, the first of the 5 love languages. That's why we daven. The second one is acts of service. This one's not very difficult to apply. We have 613 acts of service. That's why we have so many mitzvahs. Think about all the things that we just do for God because that's what God wants. When my wife asks me to do something, heaven help me if I ask her, well, why do I need to do it? It doesn't matter that you don't need to be getting a PhD in order to make your wife feel loved. If she asks you to do something, do it because that's what I asked, not because it makes sense in the global master plan of the universe. Do it because you love me. That's it. Right? Same thing with God. Obviously, it would be nice to understand all the mitzvahs, and we strive and yearn to do that. But on a fundamental level, we do it because of love. It's acts of service. You lay tefillin because that's what God wants us to do. Well, why tefillin? How often tefillin? Why only these tefillin? Why not those tefillin? Why should they be black and not pink? Why square and not round? Why leather and not plastic? A million questions, because that's what God wants. When my wife asks me, or if I ask my wife to cook something, or to write something, or to whatever, to do something, I'm not really looking to have a philosophical discussion. Let's just do it because that's what I want, right? It's love. That's why we do the mitzvahs, because that's what God wants. Obviously, it's nice to understand, but once you know what God wants and you can do it, that's an act of love. That's the second love language, the mitzvahs. Gifts. So what is gifts in our love language with God? Well, that's not very difficult. Matanot la'evyonim means gifts to the poor. That's the mitzvah of Purim, one of the 4 mitzvahs of Purim. Another major mitzvah, which is compared to all the other mitzvahs, is the mitzvah of tzedakah, charity, which is translated as charity, which means gifts to the poor or gifts to God's needs, to the spiritual and educational institutions, right? To Torah charities. So when we give tzedakah, philanthropy, I'm not talking about philanthropy to the Alligator Foundation, but to God's causes, then we are doing gifts. We're giving God gifts. And by the way, much of the temple service in biblical times had everything to do with bringing gifts, animal sacrifices, animal offerings that we would literally bring to God and say, look, I'm so grateful, I feel so loving to God for whatever reason that I want to bring an ox. Imagine you have, an ox in those days. It was like a Mercedes-Benz, a Toyota at least, right? Imagine you say, I love God, I'm going to bring my Toyota, I'm going to park it at the synagogue and set it on fire for God. Amazing, right? That's your offering to God. That's what you're doing. You're bringing that to God. You're saying, God, I'm giving you a part of my wealth, a part of my resources. I'm giving you a part of me. And that is what the third love language, the third of 5, gifts. Then we've got quality time. What's quality time in our relationship with God, in our love language, in our romance with God? Any ideas, friends? Anybody know what maybe the love language of physical time is? I see Andy Siegelstein is telling me it's a 1992 book. I'm assuming you're talking about The 5 Love Languages by Gary Chapman. Yep, very popular. I love reading it. It's awesome. So the quality time, beautiful, Marty. Spot on, my friend. Shabbos. You're supposed to stop everything, stop, drop, and roll. Just Shabbos. Everything shuts down. You are supposed to just be spending quality time with God. Nothing else. And that's the beauty of Shabbos. I always feel like I'm coming into Shabbos like an airplane when it lands. You feel that G-force like pushing you back because you've been traveling at 800 miles an hour or something and now you're stopping. That's how I come to Shabbos. It's like the speed of the week. It's just G-force until those candles are lit and it's just me, my family, my faith. Beautiful. No distractions, no static, no noise. No problems, just me and God. It's beautiful. I don't know what I would do without Shabbos. It is the ultimate gift. I just don't understand how people do not observe Shabbos. It's like sleep. You need a rest. Real rest. Rest means not while you're on your phone, you're playing, you're sleeping. You can't sleep while you're texting. You sleep, you turn all engines off. That's what Shabbos is. It's all engines off. I see that Sarah is saying Shir HaShirim is the song of songs, is effectively a romance with God. And I want to comment on that, Sarah, that Song of Songs is a book that was written by King Solomon. The sages wanted to ban it. They thought it was disgusting. When the sages found the Song of Songs by King Solomon, they were like, what on earth is this? It sounded like the script of a soap opera from Hollywood. And they were like, what are we supposed to do with this? They wanted to ban it until it dawned upon them that King Solomon, in his great wisdom, had written this book not as two lovers, but as the romantic relationship between God and each of us and the Jewish people. And when they realized that, they said, Rabbi Akiva said, Kodesh Kadashim, it is the holiest of holies. And they incorporated it within the Tanakh, within the written Torah. Marty is the love doctor. Oh yeah. Marty's the man. He's a scholar and a lover. So therefore it's a very beautiful point you raised there, Sarah, that our relationship with God is one which is love. And when you think about the song that we sing, it's a beautiful song that we sing Erev Shabbos. Di nefesh avarach. That's page 151 in the Blue Prayer Book. It goes like this: Beloved of my soul, merciful Father, draw your servant to your will. Then your servant will run as swiftly as a deer. You will bow before your splendor. Your acts of affection will be sweeter than honeycomb and every pleasant taste. It's just beautiful, loving words with which we welcome the Shabbos, the quality time of Shabbos. Glorious, resplendent one, light of the world, my soul is lovesick for you. I beseech you, O God, pray heal it by showing it the sweetness of your splendor. Then it will be strengthened and healed and will experience everlasting joy. O pious one, may your mercy be aroused and have compassion upon your beloved child. For it is long that I've been yearning to behold the glory of your majesty. These my heart's desires. So have pity and do not conceal yourself. It's a cry for intimacy. Reveal yourself, my beloved, and spread over me the shelter of your peace. Let the earth be illuminated by your glory. We will rejoice and exult in you. Hasten, beloved, for the time has come, and be gracious unto us as in days of yore. Mahera who hasten your beloved. It's so beautiful. We call God our lover because that's what God is. God, we need to rebrand God in terms of love and beauty instead of fear and awe and telling us what to do. That's the fourth love language, which is quality time, and that's the Shabbos and also the Yontifs, by the way, as well. So, Warren, isn't the congregation and shul a part of your Shabbos experience? Of course, that's what I said, Warren. I said family and faith. That's exactly what I'm saying. It's my family, my mishpacha, which is my wife, my children, and my community. That's my family, my people. But there's no Fox and CNN, and there's no EU, and there's no WHO, there's no Hurricane Administration, there's no World, what do they call themselves, the World Money Organization or whatever. There's none of that. There's no politics, there's no Republicans, there's no Democrats. It's just us. There's just souls. It's beautiful. That's the quality time which we spend on Shabbos. Absolutely, it's totally. And the final love language is physical touch. So what is physical touch? What is physical touch in our relationship with God? I know this. What is physical touch? 1 second. I'm going to pull up something. Give me a quick second. Physical touch. Oh, yeah, I got it. Okay. Yeah, okay. So the physical touch is, can you think about what physical touch is in our relationship with God? Because this is a little more challenging. Any ideas, friends, about what is physical touch in our relationship with God? Adina, shalom, Adita. What is our relationship with God when it comes to physical touch? What is our 5 love languages, the 5th love language when it comes to God? So with our own marriages, we know what physical touch is. But when it comes to God, we have this obsession with physical mitzvahs. Look at all the other religions. They're very far removed from this physical world. You know, the Muslims right now are experiencing a 30-day fast. They're abstaining from food for 30 days in a row. We Jews, we give 5 days a year. We don't eat. It's like a healthy thing, 5 days a year. We spread them out throughout the year, and we're done. These guys, they're fasting for a whole month. There's like no food. The priests, sexual relations is considered evil. It's it's sinful, to have marital relations. The monks, they don't talk to anybody. They don't have any clothes. They don't have any money. They don't have any food. They just don't talk. They don't do. They don't engage. They're removed for their aesthetics. They're removed from the rest of the world. They're living up in a mountain somewhere in the Far East. But as Jews, we have this obsession with physical stuff. You want to observe Shabbos? You got to eat food. You got to eat cholent. You've got to eat fish and flesh. Fish and meats, and you got to have salads. You got to have wine, good wine. It's got to be good wine. Wine at the beginning of Shabbos, wine at the end of Shabbos, wine in the middle of Shabbos, and the Chaim's at the Kiddush, of course. We have an obsession with physical mitzvahs. You can't lay tefillin in your heart. It's got to be a physical box made of leather with a parchment inside and the Shema inside. If you meditated for 8 hours, you didn't do the mitzvah. You laid tefillin for 18 seconds, you've done the mitzvah. Ha'maisehu ha'ikar, the physical act is what matters. There's a law in the Code of Jewish Law. There's a whole discussion in the Code of Jewish Law about if somebody forced matzah down your throat. Did you fulfill the mitzvah or not? I was having a fascinating discussion with my son. He's learning Talmud on Zoom. So we try to spend a few minutes quality time every single day. So we took a walk the other day, and he was telling me that he learned in the Talmud, tractate Baba Metzia, a debate between Abaye and Rava. The debate goes about a watchman. So let's say Rob Berger has a Mercedes-Benz. And Rob lets Marty, or asks Marty to watch his Mercedes-Benz while he goes to Chicago. So there's certain obligations, certain liabilities for which Marty would be obligated if anything happened to the Mercedes. And there's certain things he's not obligated for, right? If the car broke down, let's say, for no apparent reason, then Marty wouldn't be obligated. But if, let's say, if it was stolen, then he would be obligated. Whatever, it's a whole discussion. The question was, what happens if the beginning was negligent? If Marty did something which was negligent, let's say he left the car unlocked with the keys inside in a dangerous neighborhood. It was negligent, and then he'd be obligated. And later on, something happened over there in that neighborhood when he was initially negligent, and it ended up that it broke down on its own accord. So something out of his power happened to it. So would he be obligated or not, right? I don't want to get lost in the Talmudic discussion, but according to Abaye and Rava, they're having a debate about what obligates the person. Is it your intent? Is it your intent that obligates the person? And therefore, since Marty's intent in this case was to be negligent by leaving the car unlocked in a dangerous neighborhood, therefore whatever happens to the car is his liability. Or do we go by the deed? By the deed, the fact that the car was not stolen makes him not liable, and the fact that something else happened to it makes he's not liable. So that's really the discussion here. Do you go by the intent of the person, or do you go by what actually happened? And the way we apply this, and I see Brandon is bringing up, that's a very interesting discussion in Talmud. You're right. So let's say you're walking down the street. Let's apply this principle. You're walking down the street and you drop $50. You drop $50 by mistake, and a poor person finds it and eats, and he gets food, livelihood from your money. Later on, you found out that a poor person used your money, right? And let's say you regret the fact that the poor person found the money. Did you or did you not do a mitzvah? Your intent was clearly not to give the money to the poor person. Had you known, you would have totally taken it back. You did not want to do a mitzvah of charity, but you did do the mitzvah by chance it happened. So did you or did you not fulfill the mitzvah? What matters here? Is it your intent that matters, or is it what actually happened that matters? Ultimately, at the end of the day, we don't really care what your kavanah was. We care more what actually happened. If the poor person was nourished because of you, then the mitzvah is credited to you. You've done the mitzvah, even though your intent was not to do the mitzvah. Like Marty's saying, you still did the mitzvah. And that, my friends, is the meaning of the fifth love language, which is physical touch. Is the physical mitzvah. And I see on Facebook right now that Susan Pelosi wrote, putting on tefillin, probably to answer my question, which I missed before, about what is the fifth love language, physical touch in our relationship with God. And you said putting on tefillin, you're absolutely right. It's the physical observance of the mitzvah of tefillin, or of tzedakah, or of Shabbos. When somebody says to me, Rabbi, you pray for me. Rabbi, I'm a good Jew in my heart. That doesn't count. A ganef, a thief, is not somebody who knows how to steal, or somebody who could steal if he needed to. It's somebody who actually steals. Those are the people that we put behind bars. A murderer is not somebody capable of murder, or not somebody who understands the theory of murder, but somebody who actually murders. So to a scholar is not somebody who's capable of learning, but somebody who actually learns Torah. And somebody who loves God is not somebody who knows how to love God, but somebody who actually loves God in the fifth love language of physical touch. And that is the beauty of the 5 love languages, where we have not only 5 love languages that took us 3,000 years of scratching our heads over the Talmud to understand, until Gary Chapman showed up and he showed us the 5 love languages of marriage. But we also understand now why it is that there's 5 love languages when it comes to Torah as well. To summarize, words of affirmation, verbal words to your spouse, is also prayer to God. Acts of service is doing things for your spouse, and that's doing the mitzvahs for God. Gifts is giving gifts to your spouse, or tzedakah for God. Quality time is obvious, but for God that would be Shabbos and Yantiv. And physical touch is emphasis on the physical deed, even if there is no kavanah, even if there is no intent, making sure that it's the physical touch that matters in our relationship with God. Terry is asking a question. Hi, Yomar. Can also be connecting with God through physical relationship with another person? We're connecting with the God in them. Okay, that's a very interesting question there, Terry. Can you be connecting with God through physical relationship with another person? The question is, why are you connecting with that other person? If you're, the Torah says that the mitzvah, that procreation is a mitzvah, right? Procreation is a mitzvah. So therefore, that's why we dance. We learned this in the Talmud a few days ago, that the reason that we dance at a wedding is not because we just hedonistic, but because we're celebrating the beauty, the essence, the real reason for marriage, right? Which is two souls coming together as one. 1 + 1 = 1. So are you making love, or are you satisfying your physical desires? If it's making love, that is a spiritual concept. And yes, I think that is a mitzvah, which is something holy, and you're serving God through physical connection to another person. Absolutely. When you see another person, do you see the soul or do you see the body? If you look at the other person, you see a soul, then you are connecting to the godliness in them. Absolutely, Terry. So, Susan, I'm glad that's what you meant. You were spot on. Thank you, because I did have a brain freeze there for a moment on physical touch. Thank you for saving me, Susan. Mickey, touching the mezuzah. Now, Mickey, touching the mezuzah, while it's not a physical mitzvah, it's not an actual mitzvah. I would tend to agree with you, though, because the mezuzah is like a cognitive mitzvah, in the sense that we become aware of the presence of God within this room, Hashem Echad, of God's unity in this room, right? But then you affix the mezuzah on the door in a physical act. That's a physical act of touch. But when you touch the mezuzah, you're kind of giving physical manifestation to your meditation. So while it's not an actual mitzvah, I do agree with you, Mickey, that you're giving physical expression to an emotion or an idea, and like you would do in a marriage. And like somebody once said in our show, I told my wife 20 years ago under the chuppah that I love her. If anything changes, I'll let her know. Right? It's not enough that you feel the love inside. You've got to verbalize it. You got to express it. So too, it's not enough that you're just cognizant of the relationship with God. You also have to manifest it through a physical expression. Now, the touching of the mezuzah, Mickey, that you point out, is, I believe, a physical touch concept. I agree. And that's, by the way, when we daven also, you don't daven like this. You're supposed to daven like this. Just loud enough for your own ears to hear it. Not that that person next to you should hear, because that would be annoying to the next person. But you are supposed to daven in a way that you yourself can hear the words that you're saying, to give physical expression to the affirmations and meditations that are being dealt with during the time of prayer. So prayer really is two. It's words of affirmation and physical touch, because there is a physical element to the mitzvah of davening. Hi, Chana. Hi, how you doing? Talking about spouses and marriages. Chana, we're talking about the 5 love languages today in the Talmud. I wonder if you have any input to share with us about the 5 love languages, because we're learning that piece of Talmud, which talks very mysteriously about 5 sounds of marriage and 5 sounds of Torah. And it's beautiful, by the way, that now we're in the countdown, Sfirat HaOmer, in the countdown to Shavuos, to when we receive the Torah. That's the next Jewish holiday, which is happening, I think it's like May 30th, or the last Friday and Saturday of this month of May. Friday and Shabbos is Shavuos. By the way, we'll be doing Yizkor on that last day of May, the second day of Shavuos. And it's on that day that we receive the Torah. So right now we're excited and counting down the days to receiving the Torah all over again. So the emphasis is on the 5 love languages of Torah as they connect to the 5 love languages of marriage, right? Andy, sinning in heart doesn't count, only if you sinned in deed. Well, Andy, yeah. What does sinning in the heart mean? That you had an adulterous thought? Tanya does get into that in the chapters around the mid-30 chapters. It gets into the power and the impact of thought. But at the end of the day, ha'maaseh hu ha'ikar, action is the main thing. Action is the main thing, yeah. If you wanted to give charity and you should have given charity, you would have given charity, you could have given charity, but you didn't give charity, then you didn't give charity. In heaven, they don't accept credit cards. no traveler's checks. They don't even accept cash. The only currency that's accepted in heaven is receipts. It's not what you could have done or would have done. It's what you actually did. That is what matters up in heaven. Andy, Jimmy Carter famously talked of sinning in the heart. Nah, look, Andy, Jimmy Carter isn't exactly the model, the paradigm of ethics or morality or of spirituality. So with all due respect to the former president, I think we have a lot to disagree on beyond Camp David and the other issues that Jimmy Carter had with our people. The act of going to shul, to Shabbos, is a physical act. I agree, Warren, absolutely. And I will always say to people that, when you sweat your way through a mitzvah, you walk to shul, or you really toiled in a mitzvah, you kasher the kitchen, or you baked the matzah, whatever you did, and you're sweating, it's that sweat which is going to weigh down your scale one day when you get up there to heaven and they're weighing your mitzvahs versus your merits versus your demerits. It's that sweat, the very sweat of the mitzvah, which is going to weigh down your side of merit so incredibly much. Lighting Shabbos candles, the same thing. This is the physical mitzvahs, my friends. It's not enough to say, okay, I'm closing my eyes and I'm lighting candles. No, you're not doing that. You didn't do the mitzvah. If you can't do a mitzvah in your heart, obviously, if you don't have a choice, if you're in like a concentration camp, God forbid, and you can't do the mitzvah, then that's all you can do. But when you can do it, you got to do it. Right? It's like a marriage. I had every intention of cooking dinner for my wife tonight. I envisioned myself taking out the meat and defrosting it and cooking it and looking through the recipe and all the stuff that she loves. I just didn't do it. It doesn't count. I don't think she's going to appreciate that, right? It's the physical act. And that, my friends, is the 5 love languages. It's the 5 love languages. I see that Marty says on YouTube, sounds like Jimmy Carter, had lust in his heart. Shmendrik, okay. It's not the thought that counts. Exactly. It's exactly right, Brandon. It's not the thought that counts. That is the 5 love languages, the 5th being physical touch. And with this, my friends, I think that the Talmud becomes so incredibly meaningful. As you look at this piece of Talmud, you're like, oh my God, these sages were 3,000 years or 2,000 years ahead of the game. When they say to us this Talmud that you think, if you read this Talmud 100 years ago, you'd be like, this book is so stupid. It's like, doesn't even make sense. I want to. But today, you look at the book and you say, wow. And you realize that there's so much more depth than even meets the eye. We're only scratching the surface. We're only starting to understand what the Talmud is saying. When it says that if you don't dance at the wedding, if you don't dance at the wedding, then you will not marry. Now we've got to go back to the words and look at them closer. Now that we even know the nouns of what's being discussed in this piece of Talmud, the five languages of marriage and the 5 languages of Torah, now we can go back into the Talmud and try to understand how they work. We'll do that in a moment. Comments coming in from Robert Berger. That's why they said the road to hell is paved with good intentions, not the road to heaven. Exactly. In quarantine, it's hard to daven. I don't know how well you guys are davening these days, but it's not easy. I know when I'm here regular, it's not quarantine. I know I show up, I daven, I get it done. But when I'm out of a schedule, it's not so easy to do everything, and you need more like a fortress mentality to do the things that you need to do. And I hope that you guys are davening through this quarantine and taking the time at home to daven on your own. But yeah, you can't just have an intention, say, today I wanted to daven. It doesn't count. You do it. You got to lay the tefillin. Just get it done, do it, and do the deed. That's what matters. That's what matters. So I'm glad you like the way I said it, Brandon. Awesome. So, okay. Hi, Shelly. Good morning and welcome. Welcome to the 5 love languages that we're talking about today in Talmud. And now let's go back into the Talmud. Let's go back into the text and see if now we can bring the text to life. Let's take a look. So I'm back on page 83. Again, with the book Ein Yaakov. If you don't have it, I encourage you to buy it from Art Scroll Masorah Publications. I'm sure you can buy it on Amazon, or just go to the Art Scroll Masorah website. It's Art Scroll, ARTSCROLL. In fact, if I'm not mistaken, by the way, you can go to the Art Scroll app right now, and they're giving away one free download, if I'm not mistaken, during quarantine. One free download. So if you go to your app store and you look up ArtScroll, the ArtScroll app, I believe that you might be able to download this book for free right now. Let me take a quick look in here. ArtScroll Digital Library. And maybe it's called the Wasserman Digital Initiative. It's downloading. Let's see. En Yaakov. Let's see what happens. Okay, whatever. Maybe somebody can post it in the group. But if you could take a look at it and see if they can offer it for you for free or not, whatever. Anyways, bottom line, let's go back to the Talmud for a couple minutes of here and see what we can come up with. So page 83, in another teaching of Rabbi Chelbo in the name of Rav Huna about prayer. Rabbi Chelbo also said in the name of Rav Huna, a person should always be careful about praying. No, I'm sorry, that's the wrong page. Wrong page, sorry. Page 85. Another teaching of Rabbi Chelbo in the name of Rav Huna, but on a different topic. Rabbi Chelbo said in the name of Rav Huna, anyone who gets benefit from the wedding feast of a groom but does not make him glad violates the 5 sounds. He violates the 5 sounds. Does that mean he's harming his own marriage? Is that what it means? Maybe. And this comes from Jeremiah. It was Jeremiah that really was the first one to come up with the 5 sounds of marriage. In the verse, there are 5 sounds associated with the groom's joy. A person who does not try to gladden the groom when it is proper for him to do so, because he has eaten at the groom's feast, shows that the groom's joy is not important to him and thus takes these 5 sounds lightly. Okay? The Gemara continues, and if he does gladden the groom, what is his reward? Rabbi Shimon Levi said he merits the Torah was given with 5 sounds. It says, when the Torah was given at Sinai, which is the story of Shavuos, on the 3rd day when it was morning, there was sounds, plural, which is 2. And lightning and a heavy cloud on the mountain, and the sound of the shofar is 3, was very powerful. The sound of the shofar grew, continued, but strong. That's number 4. Moshe would speak, and God would respond to him with a sound. That's a 5 sounds. The knowledge of Torah, which is given with 5 sounds, is granted to someone who has fulfilled the 5 sounds of gladdening a groom. I have a feeling that there's a lot more going on over here than meets the eye. When it says that you'll merit the 5 sounds, I think that if you dance at a wedding, I'm giving you my own interpretation right now. If you dance at a wedding, I think this connects to Terry Zweig's comment. If you dance at a wedding celebrates the joy of life. You know, a lot of people love to make fun of marriage. I hate making fun of marriage. But people love to make fun of marriage and say, how can't wait to get away from their spouses, how suffocating or claustrophobic it is. But really, it's a matter of perspective. It's the most beautiful perspective, paradigm shift. Do you see it as a chore or do you see it as the most beautiful opportunity? Right? So the person that dances at a wedding gives physical expression to the joy, the happiness, and the gladness of marriage. And therefore, in their own relationship, love will overcome. By physically dancing, it's connected very closely to the idea that we said in today's Yom, that the universe reflects back at us the energy that we invest. Reaction as an equal and opposite reaction. When you dance at a wedding, you bring out the joy in marriage and in your marriage. You bring out by raising your spirit, by sanctifying marriage, you're bringing out the love within the marriage. I guess you'll be more cognizant. It's difficult to understand exactly what this means, but somehow you'll be emphasizing more the 5 love languages. And certainly when you do so, when you gladden the bride and the groom, by dancing. It doesn't make any sense really to dance with the bride and groom. It doesn't really make sense to dance at a wedding. The reason you would do so is because you're celebrating the relationship of 2 souls, the homecoming of 2 souls. I guess today with 50% divorce rate, it's like really, it doesn't really make sense to dance at a wedding because there's a 50-50 a chance. It's a toss-up about whether this marriage will actually survive. But when you truly dance at a wedding, you believe in the soul, in the godliness of the marriage, and the two souls coming together as one, as two half souls, as two soulmates coming together as one. And that transforms the dynamic of our relationship when we emphasize not the externality, not the oi of Judaism, celebrating, emphasizing the joy of Judaism. And that is what causes our relationship with God to become romantic. So that's the level upon which I'm understanding this. That's how I'm relating to this. And me, I find this piece of Talmud very, very interesting, as it opens our eyes to the 5 love languages which are being hinted to in the Torah. There's a lot more to come over here in the notes, but I think we'll save that for the next time we study. With that, I'm going to call it a day. I'm going to check out right now, but I want to say thank you to everybody for joining me for this beautiful Torah study here today. Good morning, Dean, just joined us. And let's try to implement those 5 love languages, right? If you want, I wrote articles about them. If you want to see the articles that I wrote about them, I wrote about them about 3 or 4 years ago. If you search in our jewishgardens.com email archive, if you go to the jewishgardens.com email archive and you search an article called Summer Lovin'. Summer Lovin' is the name of the article. See, I wrote about this back then a couple of years ago if you'd like more about this. But anyways, we'll be talking more about it the next time with less than next week. Meanwhile, I would like to remind everybody, tomorrow morning we're studying Judaism at home. It is going to be broadcast on Zoom as well as Facebook and YouTube. The Zoom link is in the email. It's actually very simple. The Zoom link is jewishgardens.com/Zoom. That's the link. jewishgardens.com/Zoom. Log in tomorrow morning, 8:30. We'll be having our Zoom discussion on Jewish mitzvahs relating to food, talking about physical touch. And that's happening tomorrow morning at 8:30, in addition to Facebook and YouTube. And with that, I just want to mention to you, if you want to join us for the radio show today, we're doing the radio show at 1:30 or 2 o'clock-ish, around 2 o'clock, on Facebook and YouTube, if you'd like to watch us. And also, what else are we doing? Also, I wanted to mention to you that there is a Tehillim class. Corey teaches a Tehillim class. It takes place on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays at 11:30 on our Zoom link. That's jewishgardens.com/Zoom. For anybody who's looking to deepen their understanding of Tehillim, of the Psalms of King David, in Hebrew, and Hebrew reading, and the Hebrew understanding, and the meaning of the Psalms. It's very, very beautiful stuff. Corey is a great teacher. It's on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays at 11:30. jewishgardens.com/Zoom. Everybody's welcome, men and women. And with that, folks, I'm going to sign out. Over and out. Let's be better husbands and wives today. Let's be more conscious of our relationship with the people that we love. Let's ask ourselves, I'm sorry if I started that already. I need to finish with this. Let's ask ourselves, am I loving my spouse in the way that he or she needs to be loved? What is my spouse's love language? You should ask them today. Go through these 5 love languages. Acts of service, quality time, verbal affirmations, gifts, and physical touch. Ask yourself, what is my spouse's love language? What is my love language? What is my primary and what is my secondary? We each have a primary and a secondary. And I know the men are all going to typically say that it's physical touch, but you know what? When you really think about it, it's not always physical touch. There's much more to it. Men are very sensitive. Many men need verbal affirmation. We're all like this. And I want you to ask yourself, what about my kids? What are my kids' love languages? And what kind of relationship do I have with my children right now? Am I loving my child in the way that my child needs to be loved? Or am I completely deaf or in the language that my spouse or my children need me to love them in? Am I illiterate in the language that God needs me to love him in? And when you identify what your love language is, when you identify what your spouse's love language is, you're going to make a very, very profound difference. Very profound difference in your life. So with that, in your marriage, in your relationship, we'll be talking more about this in the next Talmud session. But with that, I'd like to encourage everybody, please like this video, like it on Facebook and share it on Facebook, please, so that we can spread the word. And on YouTube, if you could subscribe to our link, like the video on YouTube, and we'll spread the word. 5 love languages, folks, the way it is in the Talmud. Thank you, everybody, for joining us here this morning. Over and out. Have a wonderful day, and may your marriages be just beautiful, and make yesterday look like ancient history with the new level that you take it to today. Shalom. Have a great day, everybody.